Firstly, I'd like to start with the landscape story, that our cultural story for this area that really gives us the reason as to why we are doing what we are doing. The creation story of Warreen, or Warrian, the bandicoot, is centred around Mount Warrian, just north of Colac, and its lava flows. This story tells how Warreen, a megafauna predecessor of the modern-day bandicoot, created the many waterholes around Mount Warrian, using its tail as a club. Warreen did this in order to change the direction of the water flow away from Karang, a saline lake west of Mount Warrian, towards Lake Colac. Karang, Lake Corangamite, is Dreeite Ngootyoon Meerreeng, snake country, and if too much water flows into the lake, the sleeping woman of the lake will wake, flooding all the surrounding lands with her tears. Warreen is now said to be sleeping in what is known as Red Rock. I was meant to have a better photo for my story, but this story is connected to the volcanic eruptions of the region, which only ended 8,000 years ago. So my ancestors would have been here to witness the complete change in the landscape. I'll just touch on our country plan and what it says about this sort of landscape. The volcanic plains run across the middle of our country, and where most of our people lived, the lands and lakes were rich in resources and provided us with year-round food and water. The volcanoes across the land are all significant, as they were beacons to our ancestors and are sites of great meeting places. The area has great biodiversity, with brolgas and Corangamite water skink that only occur here. Red Rock is an important place for our nation. Though largely cleared land now, these vast plains are important for our past and critical for our future. This one is a forever project, and we're only just getting started, and is one of our first projects links to why country is managed, not just managing country for the sake of it. I'll now pass to Laura to discuss her part.
Thanks, Brodey. Yeah, my name's Laura Prentice. I'm the Threatened Species Officer at EMAC. Just a bit of context to the location of Dreeite. It's clearly not the Otways, but we thought you'd all like to hear about it. And yeah, thanks to Jack and the CEC for including us. So it's not so far from where we are today. You can see in the red circle, that's the Dreeite Nature Conservation Reserve. This particular reserve, it's reasonably small, and it was actually purchased by the state in 2004. Prior to that, it was farming, it had grazing, it was part of the soldier settlement system after World War I. It was purchased because of the stony knoll shrubland and the wetlands, so really significant vegetation, and it sits within a broader landscape that has a lot of that vegetation type. It's also near the Ramsar wetlands and has a range of threatened species. It's also rocky. If anyone who's been out there, it's super, super rocky. So Corangamite water skink, which Brodey mentioned, is one of the main threatened species and reasons why this was set aside as a reserve. This is a EPBC listed threatened species. Dreeite is one of 14 sites where this skink occurs. The last kind of detailed surveys were over 20 years ago, and 80% of all Corangamite water skink populations occur on Eastern Maar country. It really uses this really specific rocky habitat close to water, so right on the edge of the wetlands. So here's a couple of photos taken roughly 25 years apart to give you a bit of context what happened after grazing was removed, which was one of the main management changes when this site became a reserve. So setting it up as a reserve addressed some of the threats, so it prevented any further habitat loss, and removing grazing really let the vegetation take off. So from the skink's perspective, there's a lot of good complexity now on the water's edge, which gives some good habitat. As Brodey said, we're really at the beginning of this project, so we don't have a lot of answers, we just have a lot of questions. Being a reserve doesn't stop any of the usual threats, foxes, cats, deer, brown rats, black rats, all the usual things are there, and all can be a threat to Corangamite water skink. The vegetation's changed significantly, so what used to be quite a grassy system is now really heavily dominated by the tree violets, but we're doing some work to try and bring back a bit more of some of the grassy system So something as simple as just protecting some wallaby grass from grazing, just to allow it to set seed. Trying to change the structure of that native vegetation. So we've got now some good baseline flora and fauna surveys. We've got lots more assessments to do, lots of questions, lots of follow-up. No time to go into it here. But Matt, it's your turn to talk about other things.
Have we run out of time yet? Death by public speak. Okay, I'm Matt King. I'm the fire officer for Eastern Maar. I'll talk to you a little bit today. Just as I said, we're just doing a brief overview of where we're at. I only started the role in October last year, so we've come a long way in the last 8 to 10 months. I guess our philosophy, Eastern Maar, around fire, it's informed by the biocultural landscape. So we're talking at the moment, as Brodey mentioned, about Dreeite, so bandicoot country, and this will inform our fire regimes into the future, looking at the biocultural landscape, the history of the area of Eastern Maar country and what country used to look like, what functions it performed, which I'll go into a little bit. So we're looking at land through that cultural lens, that ecological lens, not just single species, but, holistically. So there's an emphasis on why, as Brodey mentioned, about the Bandicoot country informs us as to what that country was and how it looked. So it's deliberate, it's not haphazard. We're not just burning country and walking away. This is very long-term commitment. And an important aspect of that is getting Maar back on Meerreeng or country and getting people trained, getting people's skills and our capacity as an organisation moving forward. So there's multiple objectives for burns too, for a cultural burn, and I'll go into that in a sec. But the most important thing is we're not doing this from a tokenistic point of view. We're not burning country to get a photo on Facebook or Instagram. This is long-term and deliberate. So just going back into that, reinforcing that bandicoot country, Dreeite. This wasn't a cultural burn. This was a reset burn that we were conducting in March. It had multiple objectives. One was to reduce the biomass of Phalaris and the weed-dominated country that it was. And we're utilising Western science where applicable. As Jack mentioned about Michael Sean Fletcher, the core sampling there indicates that country was completely different to what it was today. So we're trying to just reinstate that. We've also done eDNA sampling with foxcats to see in the vein Hope, Mark knows about that, that there is a bandicoot still out there, which would, really, spur us along and help with possibly funding and all the rest of it. Survey techniques, pre and post-burn sort of surveys. So our objective over time is to manage country in this context, which is an example of, I'll use the example of Nera. So Nera means she-oak. And if you go to Nera country today, there's no she-oaks there. So what's that telling us? And then we can use that core sampling and that other technology. Karangamite means snake. So these are the types of biocultural indicators we're looking for. And the fire type and frequency will be informed by that. So when you look at Eastern Maar country and you talk about biocultural indicators, there's a big body of work to do in-house around that research and that to inform us into the future, and then to inform other agencies like the CFA and places like that where we can say, hang on a minute, like this is the fire regime you should be using here, not that one. You're not promoting that species or whatever. So the Dreeite burn, as I said, it was a Deca partnership burn. It was a reset burn to reduce biomass primarily and try and knock Phalaris around a bit. There's Brodey with the initial ignition. And there's the group, the team on the day. It was a really positive day. And it was east of Maar's first sort of foray. Is that how you say it? Into this sort of area. So that's just a bit of an indication of how the burn went. Because it had multiple objectives, we wanted to uncover the Phalaris as well to look at cultural heritage and to enable the cultural heritage crew to have a look and record sites there, because it was known to be rich in cultural heritage. So there was no grading, there was no, this was all whippersnipper sort of slash breaks grade down the south there, and we had a northerly wind. We burnt into the wind and used the natural water bodies there to hold up the fire. We didn't want to burn the whole block. We were just after that initial 10 hectares, I think we did. And then we've got plans to, hopefully in spring, to do another block to get that different fire history in. So GFF training is a big part of my role as well. So it's building capacity within the organisation. So you can see a few guys there. And on the drip torches, that was a bit later than March, and that was just to get people used to the process, and the DECA fire training as well with GFF. I should mention the partners as well, which I just forgot. Like I said, DECA obviously, or DECA, I don't know how you pronounce that. And CEC has been great. Jack's been great. Zoos Victoria, Parks, James Gorman, and others. Mick, Tony Marnie, one of the local landholders, took us out there to show us how hard it is to get re-veg going. So we've got a few re-veg trials happening at the moment, some different techniques which we'll see how they go in the future. So building capacity within the organisation. So here's 5 East of Maar people all trained up. We just get signed off with the verbal assessments in the next week or so, and then it's on to the next round of our Indigenous Rangers, which will be coming on board soon. So just briefly, that's the goals, I guess. We're in it for the long game. And if you want to read those points there yourself. Basically, just in it for the long game, training. And this is Dave Roberts helped me yesterday, what do you call it? Experimental adaptive management rather than passive management, because it's just been passive for a long time there at Dreeite, and it's just a weedy mess. So there's not much we can do to make it any worse. So we're taking our time and we're doing it appropriately. So over the next summer months, we'll be doing seed collection as well, building up a seed bank, which is another goal of the organisation, to really try and outcompete what's there now. Just to conclude, there's Uncle Tom Clark, Maar on Meerreeng, and there we are picking kangaroo grass out at Wandoo last summer. So that's already been spread out at Dreeite, which gives me a buzz. So that'll do me. I'll leave it over to Brodey to conclude. Cheers.
I was going to talk over these drone shots, but I was just going to touch on the heritage. Matt said that one of the purposes of the burn was opening the country up so we could find heritage. Over the 12 months, I found 80 individual artefacts in that area, which is a really cool indication that my people have lived there before. Being an area that is surrounded by salt lakes, this is one of the only freshwater sites. So, the fire had a goal, many goals, but one of the goals was our archaeology team getting in, and it worked. We found lots of stuff. So, that's us. Is there any questions?